Welcome back. This story is called Life on Easy Street. This is a story about a guy named Mike McKinley. Mike McKinney was working in a building that was under construction. He was a construction worker. His job was to attach drywall to the walls of this building that was under construction. It was a big building. It was like an airplane hangar. That's how big this building was. And he was standing on a 14-foot scaffold, which had wheels on the bottom. And he was hammering in this drywall 14 feet off the ground. He, for some reason, did not have a partner on the ground pushing him. He needed someone to move the scaffolding along as he finished hanging the drywall. He was moving along. So what he did, instead of having somebody push him, because apparently there was nobody available, he was shaking his hips like this. Wham! 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 And therefore making the entire scaffolding, which was on wheels, move a little bit at a time. Well, sure enough, the laws of physics came to play, and it tipped over. This 14-foot scaffolding fell. And he waited until the scaffolding was like at its apex, and he jumped. And he landed on his feet from 10 feet in the air onto a concrete floor, and he shattered both of his heels. His diagnosis was bilateral calcaneal fracture. Calcaneal is the word for your heel bone. Bilateral means both of them calcaneal fractures. Well, the company wanted to bring him back to work. He claimed, he had a lawyer, he claimed that he was completely disabled permanently, permanent disability. If the judge agrees, if the judge says, yeah, you're permanently disabled, you will receive workers' compensation benefits for the rest of your life. Meaning you get paid every 2 weeks. What you get when you're on workers' comp is you get 2/3 of your salary up to a certain level. So every 2 weeks you get a check equivalent to 2/3 of your salary that you earned before your injury, and this goes on as long as you're disabled. So this guy was claiming permanent disability, and his employer kept trying to bring him back to work. They didn't want to pay permanent disability to this guy, so they said, come back to work, we'll find a place for you. They would bring him back to work, and they put him at the desk, and all he needed to do was check in the people who were working and check them out. So it wasn't even a real job, but they paid to put him on the books so they could avoid permanent disability. Well, every couple of weeks or every couple of days, his heels would swell. Like by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, his heels would swell because of the injuries. And he would have to stop working, and he would go right to the doctor, which is what his attorney told him to do, and the doctor would write him a note saying, take him off work. So he'd go off work for 2 weeks, the doctor would release him, they'd put him back to work, he would immediately go back to the doctor and get taken off of work. So this went on for several months. Finally, we did a mediation where we tried to settle the case. And we settled the case for $99,000. That's how much he was going to receive. He signed the mediation agreement. He agreed to accept it, $99,000. No, I'm sorry, $99,000, almost $100,000. After he signed the agreement, after he signed the mediation agreement, he agreed to accept the $99,000. The case was going to be over. He changed his mind. Mike McKinney changed his mind. He said he did not want to take the settlement. He wanted to go to trial. He wanted the judge to decide whether he was permanently disabled. We went to trial. I did my best to argue against it, but he won the case because he consistently demonstrated through his medical records that he was unable to work on a consistent basis. That's the standard. If you are unable to work on a steady and consistent basis, you are considered to be disabled. So he won. He beat me. They beat me at trial. So now, instead of settling the case, he started receiving checks. First of all, the medical industry, the medical treatment is covered 100% as long as the case is open. Once the case settles, you want to go back to the doctor, you're on your own. But his case was not settled. His case was an open case. And every 2 weeks, we would send him a check for 2/3 of his wages. And this guy was receiving these checks. This went on for several months. He lived in Palm Bay, Florida. At one point, remember this guy's not working. He's receiving 2/3 of his salary every week just for sitting at home watching TV. About 6 months later, 6 months after the trial, I get a letter from his attorney. And his attorney told me that Mike McKinney had moved. And the purpose of the letter was so that the adjuster, the claims adjuster, can have Mike McKinney's new address. So we could continue to send him these checks. And he gave the address. It was 356 or whatever the number was. And the name of the street was Easy Street in Palm Bay. There's actually a street called Easy Street. And when I got that letter, I said to myself, oh my God, this guy is literally living on Easy Street. Because he's making all this money, not working, getting all this money every 2 weeks, he doesn't have to work, and he's living literally on Easy Street. And that's the story of life on Easy Street. Don't forget to read my book, Broccoli Time by Dante Allen, available now on Amazon Books.